Your team members are all over, not the office, but the geography. How do you adapt and engage well with them? Hi, I'm Janet Harvey, CEO of inviteCHANGE, and I have 3 tips that you can immediately apply in this video. The first thing to remember is to allow a bit of grace. You're adapting, they're adapting, and oh, by the way, everybody has distractions in their remote space, no matter what it is. The bedroom, the downstairs basement. I even had one person in a laundry room. Keep this in mind and make room for people to have some personal connection time. When we have that level of disturbance around us, it's really important to know that it's okay and not be striving to try to recreate something that was like the office when it's just not. Counterintuitive yet very important is a new practice around microphones and muting. You want to be able to sustain the personal connection that you're working hard to put in place, and the mute function gets in the way because you have a lag in connecting to each other. You're better off leaving microphones open and having a sense of humor about the child or the dog barking that interrupts for a moment. Trust everybody's humanity and allow for a more natural, organic conversation to take place. You might remember when you were in the conference room how hard it was to keep people off of their text and the paperwork of the previous meeting and other ways of being distracted when we're together. That's exponentially true when you're working in a remote environment. That means diligence is super important here. Here are a few tips so that you are better prepared to keep people engaged and with you every step of the interaction. Have an agenda that you send out ahead of time. 2 and no more than 3 points. Very clear what's to be covered, what decisions are expected, and if it's possible, give everybody a role on that agenda. Second, before you begin the meeting, identify who will be on the chat pod and ask them to keep track of the key points as they occur during the session. And you might also ask people to use the chat pod, having it open, to ask questions along the way. So they're not holding back on them, not sure how to raise their hand or how to interrupt when somebody is speaking, and yet everybody gets a chance to communicate. Now, of course, that means you need to pay attention to that, but that's the name of the game anyway. They want to know that you want to be there with them, and that will be reciprocated. Believe it or not, this last point's going to sound really easy. It's not quite so easy. We're not in the habit of taking time to acknowledge and to celebrate. And yet when people are feeling disrupted, it's one of the most important things you can do to have people have a sense of belonging. That's really useful right now when you're asking people to rise above the day-to-day and go the extra mile as everyone learns how to adapt in this environment. Now, it's important that when you do that acknowledgement, it doesn't feel like a pat on the head or a slap on the back. Instead, be specific. What behaviors are you noticing? What do you realize is creating more effectiveness? For example, you might say, I appreciate that the 2 of you got together on this in advance of today's meeting because what you are proposing is being delivered in a crisp way and we're all tracking well. In other words, affirm the behavior that's working so people can overcome their own hesitance about being in a remote space. And of course, if you have a large group, anything more than 5 or 6, make use of the breakouts. Give people an opportunity to spend time in a small group, 2 or 3 or 4, no more than 4 together, and then come back into the big group. This is going to bring the energy up because everybody then wants to share what they've been talking about. And a really fun way to sustain the momentum that you've worked so diligently to produce is to have a checkout question that's like taking the pulse on the energy. Now, here's the key. You want them forward thinking. So you want to ask the question this way. What is the energy of this meeting that you want to keep alive, and you make a commitment to do so as we leave today? If you're looking for more tips and guidance about effective managing and leading for yourself and for your teams, check out more videos here on our YouTube channel.